Hello, my dear fun beings. Hope you're all doing great. So, in our previous video, we had seen about sampling, what is a sample, essentials of sampling, advantages and disadvantages of sampling. And today, we will be seeing the different methods of sampling. So, the methods of sampling are mainly categorized as random and non-random. Under random sampling, we have four subtypes, and under non-random sampling, we have three subtypes. We will be looking into them one by one. So first, what is random sampling? Random sampling is one in which every individual or every item of the population has an equal or fair chance of being included in the sample. So it is regarded as a scientific method, and it is also called as unrestricted sampling device. Sorry, unrestricted random sampling device. So next, it is of two types, which is lottery method and random numbers. So let us see what is a lottery method. So the lottery method is most popular and the simplest one. So here we can do it only for the finite population, and it is inapplicable for infinite population. What we do here is all the individuals' names or numbers are written in a slip, and the slip is folded and placed inside a huge jar, and a blindfolded selection is made. So based on the sample size, we draw the individuals. And this is seen commonly in biological and agricultural sciences, and it is also called as unrestricted random sampling. Okay, so next let's move to random number method. So random numbers are also regarded as one of the popular methods and is a very practical method, but it is not possible for large size population because we need to draw a table of random numbers. So what we do here is we randomly number all the individuals of the population and make a table using them, and the table will be such that it will be a probability based table. Like, we'll not just include one item in one column, but we will be including two or three items in one column. Okay, and then the selection will be made. Then randomly we will be calling out the table numbers, like in bingo. So in bingo, what we do, we randomly call out numbers, right? So like that, when we call out numbers, we'll be like marking them, and those which have been marked will be taken as the sample. So let's move ahead, and here we have the merits of random sampling. It is a more scientific method, and therefore there is less chance of bias, as I told before. And a very good thing is that the sampling error can be measured. So sampling errors are really huge, and they cause a lot of problems. So some methods are really good in which we can measure the sampling error, and this is one such method. And it saves time, money and labor because it is a quick method. We are going to randomly choose the individuals for the samples. So moving ahead, we have demerits of the random sampling. So it requires a complete list, so that is a little bit time consuming, and if the sample size is too small, it cannot be representative of the population. For example, we have a total population of 10,000 people, and we are picking a sample size of just 10 people. So it is not representative of the whole population. It might be representing only a part of the population. So it is a demerit. And another thing is, when the data is inaccessible, we cannot do this method. For example, we are going to draw the sample for someone else who does not want to share their data. They don't want to tell you for what they're drawing the sample. Then we cannot do this method. Okay. And the last one is, when the units of population is spread over a large area, then this method cannot be used. So we will have to separate all the geographical areas and then collect the samples, which is similar to that seen in stratified sampling. So stratified sampling is used for heterogeneous population. So when a population is divided into small homogeneous groups called strata or subpopulation, and a random sample is drawn for each strata, then it is called a stratified random sampling. So what do we do here? We take a heterogeneous population, we divide it into smaller homogeneous groups, and then we randomly pick our sample from each of those groups and combine them. So that is called a stratified random sampling. So there are two types of stratified random sampling. One is the proportional stratified random sampling, and the other one is the non-proportional stratified random sampling. So in the proportional one, the sample size will be proportional to the number of strata as well as to the population, whatever the number may be inside each strata. For example, here we have a total of 50 population, and here we have say 10, and here we have like say 20, and here we have uh, the remaining 20. Okay, so under the first one, the proportional stratified random sampling, what we do is we pick 5 from here. For example, okay, this is an example. We might pick 5 from here, 10 from here, and 10 from here as our sample. This is an example. This is just an example. Or we might pick 2 from here, 4 from here, and 4 from here. Okay, in proportion to what the individual strata has in total. But in non-proportional stratified random sampling, what we do is we pick equal number of units. No matter what is the difference between each strata. Here 10, 20, 20, there is no difference. We pick 5 from here, we pick 5 from here, and we pick 5 from here. Okay, there is no difference in the number that we are going to pick. Okay, so that is equal number of units are picked in non-proportional stratified random sampling. Okay, we'll go to the merits first. So here the sample is more representative and thus it has a greater accuracy. And the units from different subpopulation may be taken such that they belong to the same geographical area. Like I said in the previous one, like if the population is separated into different geographical areas, we can group them such that each stratum belongs to one geographical area. So next is it might yield a more reliable result because we are grouping it and then picking the random sample even in the case of heterogeneous population. Now moving ahead to the demerits, if not stratified properly, they might be biased. And another thing is the overlapping strata might cause a problem. So overlapping strata means, for example, we are separating the strata into different age groups and we are not giving a pakka age group. We are giving classes like 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40. Here, this 20 falls over here also and here also. So that is an overlapping strata. So at that time, we might have a problem that the sample might not be a true representative of the population. So moving ahead, we have systematic sampling. Here, there is a list made. This list is prepared on some basis and then the individuals are numbered serially. The first item is selected randomly and then the kth item is added to the sample. For example, suppose we have these many people over here. So what we are going to do is we are going to randomly take the third person. So I'm randomly picking the third item and from this item I am going to pick every fourth item. So every fourth item is a part of my sample. Okay, so this one and then 1, 2, 3, 4 this one and then 1, 2, 3, 4 this one and then 1, 2, 3, 4 this one. Yeah, so all these belong to my sample. So this 4 number over here is the K that I've given over here. So there is a formula for finding out this. So where K is the sample interval, how do we find K is we have the population size, the total population. Say over here we have some 20 people and from that we are picking sample size is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have chosen 5 people and at every fourth person we are cutting it. So 20 divided by 5 will be 4. Okay. So that is our calculation. Okay. 20 divided by 5 is 4. So here this 4 is our K. Okay. So this is what is systematic sampling. So the merits are that it is a very simple technique that is based on the sample size. And then the time and labor consumed are very less and it gives better results. And the demerit is that it might not represent the whole population. So next one is the cluster sampling. So cluster sampling is also known as sampling stages. So what we do here is we divide the population as cluster and then randomly we pick the samples from each cluster and also the size of the sample and the cluster should be more or less the same. So over here we use this type for geographical studies. So moving ahead, we will see the merits and demerits of cluster sampling. So the merits is that, first merit is that it is a flexible method, and another thing is it is a very less time consuming method, but it is less accurate because we don't know on what basis the clusters are made, on what basis the samples are chosen, and how the samples are chosen. So this is a less accurate method. Moving ahead, we have the non-random sampling methods. So in that, the first one is a judgment sampling. It's also called as purposive or deliberate sampling. In this, the choice of the sample depends totally on the person, and the investigator determines a criteria priorly by which he has to select the sample, and it is always restricted only to the small samples. Now moving ahead for the merits and demerits, it's very simple method, and it is used to obtain a more representative sample. So the next thing is that we will not be missing the important items, because in this case it is a biased and purposive sample. It is used to solve everyday business problems, and it helps in making public policy decisions. And the demerits are that the sample may not be representative one if it is based on an individual bias. Sometimes it might not be accurate, and it cannot be compared with other sampling studies. So now moving ahead, we have convenience sampling. So here we are going to select the sample from a small chunk of population. So for very small population we can use convenience sampling, but it might not be representative of the total population, and it is usually biased and unsatisfactory. Quota sampling. So quota sampling is mostly used in non-probability categories. So for example, already the population will be separated into smaller groups based on the characteristics such as income, age group, sex, occupation, religion, etc. And the selection is based on personal judgment. So it involves less money and time, but it is biased. Okay, next is how to overcome sampling errors. The major reason for sampling errors is that we do not take proper measures while carrying out the sampling. One reason is that the proper method will not be chosen for picking the sample. That is an individual perspective. So we need to consult experienced people while picking the sample. That is the first one. Second thing is that people, after choosing the method, they might not do the method properly, and that will also cause sampling errors. So it will be easy to overcome sample when we first thoroughly understand our study of interest, and also the sampling required for that particular study. Also, making a sample of a little bit larger size will help us to overcome sampling errors. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. Hope you liked this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon next to it to be the first one to get the concepts right. Thanks for watching.